Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com and this is Graded for NXT and 205 Live, where I take a look at each show, segment by segment, and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. So Saudi Arabia is out the way, Stomping Grounds is on the horizon, and NXT is a bit weird this week, so we'll get to that in a bit. But I don't think there's anything else to touch upon here in the intro, so without any further ado, hit the intro. So we kick things off this week, as we always do, with the purple tie and 205 Live. And this week's opening bout is Jack Gallagher against a mystery man. And who's the mystery man? Who could it be? It's Chad Gable. This is absolutely mental. So this is a bit mental. Chad Gable in 205 Live commentary make it clear that they're not even sure whether it's a full-time thing or whether this is the wildcard rule in effect, but they say they're glad to have him here, as we all are glad to have Chad Gable here. And it's great because if he's not getting anything on the main roster, then you may as well bring him down here where you can have some standout matches with some of WWE's hidden gems. Because he himself is definitely one of WWE's hidden gems. What other way are these guys going to start the match than on the mat? Both of them showing off their mat game and their credentials, with commentary putting Gable over hard as an Olympic level wrestler. They keep comparing him to Kurt Angle. As the match progresses, both guys are just showing off. They're really slick, one-upping each other and just doing the best wrestles. But the story going into this one is that Gallaher can't afford another loss. He needs a good win to keep his standing, and he's just a little bit miffed that he's going up against somebody as competent as Chad Gable. Gallaher shows off a lot in this one. Probably my favourite thing he does in the entire match. There's this huge, gargantuan delayed vertical suplex where he's just got Gable up for what feels like an eternity before planting him, but even that isn't enough to put him away. After some back and forth, Gable hits a pair of belly to bellies and a dragon suplex, but Gallaher manages to get free. And then when we get toward the end of the match, there's this horrible overhead release German suplex from Gable to Gallaher on the outside, and that proves to be Gallaher's undoing. The ref starts counting. Gable manages to get himself back in the ring by about 5, but Gallaher's just there and he's stirring and it gets to 8. He gets himself up on the apron. He's got 1 foot in the ring when it gets to 9, and then he drops, and then the ref hits 10 and he gets counted out. So yeah, it was a count out victory for Gable, which was a little bit disappointing for me. So I'm going to give this one a B. I really wanted to be able to give it more, but the ending really sucked the life out of it for me. You've got Gable coming in here and it looks like it might be a permanent thing, but why would you have him win via countout? Give him a definitive win over Gallaher. It pushes Gallaher into more of a darker space, I guess, in his character, where he's going to get desperate and really do anything he can to get a win. Sort of like a Mike Kanellis, but a hell of a lot more competent. But yeah, it just felt odd that Gable, somebody with his credentials, somebody that's worked Gallaher all over that ring for the entire match, wins via countout. We then go backstage and Mike and Maria Kanellis are talking to Drake Maverick, and Mike is not a happy bunny. He asked for all of the best talents, yet Maverick just comes in and gives Gable to Gallaher. Drake takes a little bit of abuse here, but he finally snaps back with, "No, let me ask you what you've done to deserve these opportunities." He also addresses the fact that Mike and Maria have been tweeting quite openly about their contract status, and he asks how he's supposed to deal with them when that sort of stuff's going on. Maria then interrupts and runs him down for being an absent GM. He's not bothered about anything happening on 205 Live, he's just bothered about that 24/7 belt. And she finishes off by saying, "It's not our contract statuses that you need to worry about, it's your own." They walk off, and Drake sort of realizes that maybe he has been a little bit absent. He sits there and looks to himself, and he's a little bit concerned. We then keep it backstage. Noam Dar addresses the fact that he was attacked last week by Drew Gulak. He says the words "unsafe working environment," shades of Shawn Michaels. He says that he's going to take some more time off, and when he returns, if the environment is still as unsafe, he's going to transfer full-time to NXT UK. We then go back to the ring for the Singh brothers versus 2 local competitors, or as they're called on their name slate, Dos Locales. Dos Locales, get it? Like 2 locals. Smart. Really smart. So I'm going to be reading off my paper for this one because they have some funny names. So Nigel says that the names are Vaca Blanca Lenta and El Hijo del Hijo del Hijo del Cangrejo Rojo. And that translates to Slow White Cow and the son of the son of the son of the Red Crab. This one's going to be quick and painless, or so it seems, but Sunil almost gets rolled up by Slow White Cow. But then the son of the son of the son of the Red Crab is sent sailing to the outside, and that's the last we see of him for the match. Samir then takes it to Slow White Cow while Nigel is just popping himself on commentary with all of his puns, saying things like he's a jack of all trades and a master of naan, like naan bread. They don't need to curry favour backstage, and so on, and so on, and so on. The Singhs then quite quickly hit their finish on Slow White Cow to pick up the 3, and usually I wouldn't give a squash match more than a C, but Nigel, bless him, he was having so much fun that this one gets a B. It gets a B for the names alone. It was genius. And on top of that, the Singhs have clearly picked these two jobbers that can't really wrestle to their level and were almost beat by them quite early on in the match. And I like that because it makes them seem a little bit incompetent. And then we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is Oney Lorcan versus Humberto Carrillo versus Drew Gulak versus Akira Tozawa for #1 contendership for Tony Nese's Cruiserweight Championship. Gulak and Lorcan start by working over Carrillo, but things quickly just explode and devolve into chaos. Tozawa is sort of, I guess, the reigning #1 contender, but his authority is being challenged throughout this one, and he's still got that bad knee, which keeps being referenced quite early in the match. Gulak, though, unquestionably is the guy in control for the majority of this match. His new no-nonsense demeanor is clearly working in his favour. Lorcan in this one is playing the opportunist, and then you've got Carrillo and Tozawa who are sort of playing the white meat babyface role. There was a brilliant little segment with Lorcan half and half in Carrillo onto Gulak before Tozawa hit a massive senton into the pile. And then there was a moment where all 4 guys were on the apron and it was getting quite hairy. Carrillo hits like a missile dropkick on the apron and then a dive, and then Tozawa goes cannonballing off the apron onto a prone Gulak who's on like the crowd barrier. That was really like high intensity. The crowd were firmly awake after that as well, which was nice because usually 205 Live crowds are a bit like, hey! They were all on their feet, losing their minds at this moment. And it's nice because the guys bust their asses week on week on week, and when they get a genuine reaction like that, it just feels so good. But it all boils down to Tozawa and Gulak on the top rope, with Gulak superplexing Tozawa, and then both men going for sort of like a small package when they land. They both lock their legs together, and the referee counts the pin, and then there's mass confusion because it's like both guys think they've won because both guys were small packaging, and then, you know, Drake Maverick comes out, there's more referees, and we just go off the air with a confusing ending. It's not ruled, like there's no winner ruled, it's not ruled a draw, there's no nothing, it just goes off air. Despite the ending, I'm going to give this one an A-. I loved the high pace, I loved the action, and I loved that it felt like every single person at one point during the match was put onto a pedestal. They were all showcased and they were all able to like get all their stuff in and look like superstars. And the fact they got that crowd so hyped, that never really happens on 205 Live, so yeah, it was a pretty exciting match. In terms of an overall grade for 205 Live this week though, I'm going to give it a B+. There wasn't a lot of let up this week. Storyline advancement and in-ring quality were both amazing. Hell, even the squash match was entertaining. But that was 205 Live, let's move on to NXT. So as I said in the intro, NXT feels a little bit strange this week. It's emanating from Bel Air, Maryland, and it's emanating from what appears to be an NXT house show. Like, the stage is the house show stage. It seems to have that sort of feeling in the crowd where everybody's a little bit drunk and they're having a great time. Yeah. So we go straight to the ring for tonight's first match, and that is Candice LeRae and Io Shirai versus Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir, accompanied to the ring by Shayna Baszler. Just as a quick note, the Horsewomen's entrance music is just strange. Like, they're supposed to be badasses, legitimate badasses. Both of these women could probably murder me with their hands. They're that skilled at martial arts. And, yeah, they're coming out to what sounds like Bastille. It doesn't sell their danger at all. It's got this sort of sense of foreboding to it, but as soon as the guy starts singing, it's just like, right. Once the match starts, Candice makes quick work of both Duke and Shafir, with things spilling to the outside and Candice coming out on top on that as well. Shafir then manages to kick Candice off the turnbuckle back into the ring before Duke just smacks her all over the ring, just laying in the strikes, dragging her all around and taking her back to the corner. Shafir then gets in and is able to show off some MMA-influenced, or I guess MMA-tinged offense, a lot of strange holds and a lot of like interesting, innovative-looking strikes. But then Io gets the hot tag and cleans house. She nails Duke with a tiger feint kick and a drop kick, and then she traps Duke's hand under her foot and looks at Shayna, who stood at the top of the ramp. Shayna hasn't even come to ringside. She's that confident her girls are going to win the match. But Io is stood with her foot on Duke's hand, and she's looking at Shayna. Shayna knows what's coming. She jumps down and does the thing Shayna does where she stamps on people's elbows. At this point, Shayna comes running down to the ring to try and help out. Io is setting up for the moonsault on Duke, and then Shayna pulls Duke out of the ring. Io decides screw it and just does the moonsault to the outside and takes out Shayna. Candice then hits a dive, and Io grabs Shayna, throws her into the ring steps, and the match is thrown out. They then brawl through the crowd as everybody starts losing their minds. I'm going to give this one a C+, and you're going to hear me say this a lot tonight, but it just felt a little bit too house showy. The horsewomen are progressing, but they're still not quite there yet. They don't quite yet have that confidence and swagger that somebody like Shayna does. They're more focused on putting on great matches and really trying not to mess up, which is fantastic, but there is going to come a point where they really need to become their own people. That's not to say they look bad at all. They've certainly come a long way since they first began in NXT, but I still think there's just a little way to go. It kept the story going, but it didn't give anything else away. It didn't progress it in a different way. It didn't, reveal any new information. It just tided it over for one more week, and that's a theme that's going to run through this episode of NXT. We then go to a backstage segment that I don't even know why I'm talking about it. Velveteen Dream sort of vertically films himself for one. He should be shouted at for that, but he doesn't really say anything. He just says some buzzwords and he's like, "You ready for the next experience?" "No, you're not." I don't know what he was talking about. We then go back to the ring for Drew Gulak versus Kushida in a submissions match. The match obviously gets off to a lot of back and forth mat game. Both of these guys are exceptionally gifted technical wrestlers, probably two of the best technical wrestlers on WWE's entire roster, so this should be a good match. Kushida actually almost gets the hoverboard lock in nice and early, but Gulak is a slippery, slippery boy. Kushida does manage to hyperextend the shoulder of Gulak though, and this is where the match changes pace. Strikes start being thrown rather than just rolling around on the mat. There's a horrible looking gory special into a crossface from Gulak, and then once free, Kushida completely unloads, just strike, 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 strike. He eventually locks in a cross arm breaker, and he almost forces the tap from Gulak, but he just can't get it. They then go in and start trading ankle locks back and forward. And then toward the end of the match, Kushida hits this really nice rope-assisted Rana, and that proves to be Gulak's undoing. The guys go back and forward for just a little bit more before Kushida hits his handspring back elbow, a PK, and then locks in the hoverboard lock, which Gulak almost immediately taps out of. Kushida picks up the win, and post-bell, there's a little bit of an awkward stare down, but Kushida's extended his hand, and Gulak eventually shakes it. I'm going to give this one a B+. It was a little bit stop and start in places, but when it was going very, very well. Both of these guys came out of this match looking like incredibly dangerous competitors. The only weird thing is that Gulak has been so vocally anti-Kushida, we get that weird house showy handshake at the end, which I get it's a showing of respect and everything because maybe Gulak knows he's been bested, maybe he knows that Kushida is now definitely the best technical wrestler in WWE, but I just want to see this continue. Maybe one more week, but yeah, it just sort of big pop from the crowd. We then go backstage and Vanessa Bourne and Aaliyah are in the car park. Bourne tells Aaliyah that Mia Yim thinks she's deserving of the next title shot, and they're both like, no, absolutely not. We deserve shots individually before that. Bourne's got us some gifts though, including a fashion book because she can't dress well apparently, an English 101 book because just all I could think there was slight racism. Grammar for Dummies because apparently her Twitter's awful, and again, slightly racist. I know what they were going for here. They're trying to come across as schoolyard bullies, but she's part Korean, and it came off as slightly racist. We then go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is the Undisputed Era, represented by Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, against Burch and Lorcan. Lorcan and O'Reilly start things off as they mean to go on. Lorcan almost hits an early half and half, but O'Reilly keeps him under control. Burch and Roddy then just jump into the ring and start going at it as everything starts to go crazy. Once things calm down, Roddy and Lorcan start going at it, with the Era tagging regularly and Lorcan eating a hell of a lot of abuse, including a throat-first catapult into the bottom rope, which was just... oh, it was nasty looking. Eventually, Strong just grinds Lorcan down into the mat, just grinding him, beating the absolute joy out of him, and Burch is there just begging and begging for the tag. Burch manages to finally get the hot tag, he gets in, and he cleans house. He even manages to avoid a potentially nasty blind tag from the Era. He disposes of Strong, thinking he's the legal man, turns around and O'Reilly's right there, grabs him before he can do any real damage. O'Reilly hits a pendulum lariat, which is sort of a call out to Nigel McGuinness. It's also kind of a Dean Ambrose wacky line type thing. He then lifts Burch up for a brainbuster and Roddy comes in and just chops him down, like drops him and chops him. It was just, it was great. Both teams then just start going at it in the ring. Lorcan is disposed of on the outside and there ends up being a triple down in the ring with the Era and Burch. And then out comes Jackson Ryker. Ryker's tearing it down the ring. He's throwing security staff out the way. He's just, they're trying to pull him back and he's like, nope. You've even got Robbie Brookside screaming at him to pack it in. Both teams then just start trading blows in the ring. The Era throw Lorcan to the outside and eventually there's a triple down with the Era and Burch. And then out comes Jackson Ryker because, of course, out comes Jackson Ryker. He's walking down, security are getting in his way, he's just throwing him out the way, and he just stands there staring at Roddy Strong. So he's on the ramp, Roddy's in the ring, Burch rolls up O'Reilly, which knocks Roddy to the outside, and he picks up the 3. Again, despite the weird ending, I'm gonna give this one a B+. It got nicely off to the races with both teams telling a good story throughout and putting on a hell of an athletic display. Lorcan looked like the ultimate underdog for absorbing that much abuse for as long as he did, but again, just that schmoz finish, that weird sort of... It keeps storylines going, but it doesn't advance them. It just sort of drags it out for another week. It was just really, not very NXT. But in terms of an overall grade for NXT this week, I'm gonna give it a B. It sort of was what it was. It was a good showcase of wrestling, but perhaps not the best showcase of story. Each match on the card featured at least some standout moments, and the main event was a nice little bow on top. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a B. So that's it for NXT and that's it for Graded. What did you think of this week's 205 Live in NXT? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.